After about 20 hours of guiding hundreds of thousands of these weird little dudes through more imaginative puzzles than I can count, I'm left with childlike joy and at least a little bit more confidence in my problem-solving skills than I had when I started playing Humanity. Each of its maps is simple enough to be solved in about 10 to 20 minutes, yet they never stop toying with elements of platformers, dipping into real-time strategy, stealth action, and even arcade shooting at times. Its puzzling possibilities are as limitless as its endless swarms of human minions, and yet thanks to its extensive yet effortlessly simple stage creator, it verges on little big planet levels of open-endedness that will inevitably keep me coming back for months, if not years. Let's back up just a second and explain exactly what Humanity is. It's a puzzle game from the minds behind Tetris Effect and Res at Enhanced Games, which explains why it's so bizarre and cool looking. That you play as a ghostly Shiba Inu with the power to make humans do your bidding, and the goal is basically to guide your followers through each map, usually doing stuff like manipulating time and physics to clear a suitable path. No, the thin story doesn't make any sense, it's not a big focus, just like in Reds, but Humanity does loosely point to some interesting metaphors about human nature, and this somehow works to explain some of the wilder scenes, like this one. Don't ask about this one. You kinda have to play it for yourself to make the pieces fit. It's really like a modernized take on Lemmings, but if you've played Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, you might remember a few sequences here and there where you might run around as Clank, guiding infinite clones of yourself. That's basically what you're doing in Humanity the whole way through, but it's way more flexible, with far more tools at your disposal to change the fate of the endless stream of human followers. That means running and jumping around the map yourself, placing commands like turn, jump, shoot, and so forth. I had heaps of fun watching my initial strategies and mechanisms fail until I miraculously figured things out each time I progressed to the next level, because trial and error is fun when messing up is this entertaining. It's great then that after the early segments of the main campaign, you can restart a map at any time without resetting your existing commands. That lets me rethink my steps at an iterative level without throwing all of my progress away after each mistake. There's a good bit of action too, in that sometimes you need to run around a map like a manic puppy and change the commands you've already placed as certain conditions are met. For example, in one level, I organized a group of humans to push a block into place while not working together to create a pathway so that both groups could eventually jump across to escape an encroaching swarm of enemies. That's just one example, but it illustrates the basic premise of Humanity and how each of its intermingling systems gives way to a seemingly limitless number of challenges. Playing as a Shiba Inu works remarkably well here, especially given that your small stature and quick movement grant you the ability to slightly weave between groups of humans, dashing and leaping and even using your own minions to catapult yourself through the crowds. This all feels great in action, and with the DualSense controller thumping and pulsating in my hands, it all came together beautifully. It's wild to see potentially thousands of individual people flying across my television or inside my VR headset at once, and many of Humanity's individual scenes are jaw-dropping. That's both due to the bewildering technical wizardry of managing this crowd, and the way that it uses strikingly imaginative scenes to burn each moment of satisfaction into my brain. One early puzzle had me creating my own state machine, a logical mechanism made up of thousands of individual humans jumping around between 4 platforms in an infinite loop, stepping over pressure plates in a rhythm that kept the machine in a state that allowed me to send a separate group of humans climbing up a ledge and jumping their way to safety. You'd think that so many moving bodies running around at screen at once would get confusing or even nauseating, but Humanity's camera system is handled so well both in and out of VR that you almost always have control of what you're viewing. When you need to zoom in for a closer look or zoom out to get a bigger picture, it's smooth and simple to adjust your view to focus where you need to. Sometimes these infinite loops keep going even after you've hit the victory screen, allowing you to revel at the literal gravity of your own problem-solving abilities. Again, that's just one potential example of how these mechanics interlock to create interesting challenges, and frankly, it was one of the simpler ones that I ran into. Humanity's open-endedness means it almost never slows down or grows repetitive, and figuring out each of its many clever puzzles feels like a completely new experience that is uniquely satisfying each time. That's especially true given how challenging they can be if you don't look at the conveniently included solution videos that help you with basic solutions but never go overboard or spoil any secrets, like how to unlock the optional objectives on any given map. Those secret objectives are the backbone of humanity's progression system, and you need to unlock a certain number of them in each act to progress. You can't just do the bare minimum of getting your humans from point A to point B and expect a pat in the head. This game demands a little more thought from you, but it was never a drag since they were never overly tricky to find or unlock, usually just adding extra layers of satisfactory challenge while giving more experience along the way. Just knowing that the way that I solved the level isn't necessarily the only way adds a ton of replayability. By the way, that's right, there's even a leveling system that unlocks rewards like new cosmetics and features, and it even plays directly into the excellent stage creator mode where you can use those same rewards to create your own puzzles and maps, and then you can share them with the world at the press of a button. Likewise, the user stages mode is already filled with interesting new levels that stretch humanity's toolbox of mechanics well past the limits of what Enhance must have thought most people would be comfortable with in the main campaign, and it's easy to navigate directly to the best player created levels through a handy indexing system. I could easily spend hours here, and I might have possibly even sidestepped the campaign altogether if I discovered the user stages mode first, but I'm glad that I played it as a tutorial for the super advanced levels people out there are already creating. And this is all made better by humanity's VR compatibility, which will work with either PlayStation VR headset or PC VR. It's a perfectly viable way to play any level, though the VR mode disappointingly hasn't been tooled to work with the stage creator tool itself quite yet. Still, I'm delighted that Humanity gives you the option to enter a full-blown VR mode from the main menu, placing you directly into the action. Or you can stick to the PlayStation VR 2's theater mode and lay back on the couch and play on a virtual flat screen. Both modes play comfortably with the DualSense controller, though I wasn't quite as impressed when I tried it with the PlayStation VR 2 Sense controllers. They didn't feel quite like a natural fit given that you're controlling a little dog with your thumbstick rather than doing anything with motion controls. Granted, that's a small issue when compared to the fact that I ran into almost no notable bugs minus one stray crash that happened in VR later on in my playthrough. Humanity also includes a brilliant vocal synth-driven score with some piano and other synthetic elements layered in that could only be described as a vibe. Its melodies are simple, repetitive, and sometimes even a bit silly, but each tune is appropriately relaxing, setting a gentle rhythm to brainstorm puzzles to. Even the relatively energetic bits of the soundtrack, namely during its boss fights, have a steady drone to them that make them sit comfortably in the background. Humanity is a beautiful modern reimagining of Lemmings that feels as esoteric and artsy as Enhance's previous games, while ambitiously stepping onto new terrain for the action puzzle genre with a pitter-patter of countless little feet. It somehow manages to intermingle platforming, action, and real-time strategy elements with mind-bending finesse, and its open-endedness means I could be sitting here and tinkering it with it for years, much like I have with other games with great level creators like Dreams and Little Big Planet. Humanity bursts out of left field with something so unexpectedly brilliant that I can't help but recommend it to everyone who's ever enjoyed a puzzle game. For more puzzle-heavy games, check out our reviews of The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom and Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and for everything else, stick with IGN.